feel like we have to talk about Tesla and Elon Musk. And I know you just had a conversation on Twitter X. This has been, I think, from day one, right, in terms of you starting out, that you've had this investment in Tesla. And I remember when we first talked and you were getting started, you talked about him being the next Thomas Edison, and how his vehicles would turn the U.S. economy upside down. Having said that, there's an evolution and the EV world has changed. How are you thinking? It's still a top holding. How are you thinking about the Tesla story right now?
Well, first of all, Carol, thank you very much for letting me interview that time. That was nearly 10 years ago. ARK is about to celebrate its 10th year anniversary, and you gave us that opportunity, so thank you. The world is evolving, actually, I think, even more closely to what we expected. Because we expected a lot of traditional auto manufacturers to see the writing on the wall and rush as quickly as they could into scaling big time into electric vehicles. And what has happened recently? Both GM and Ford have said, we're stepping back. We're not going to do this until it's profitable. The problem with that is, in order to be profitable, they need to scale. That's how this works. These are learning curves that they are riding down, and those are expressed in cost decline. So the fact that they're pulling back means there's more share for Tesla and others who choose to go for it.
And Kathy, I want to keep the conversation going on Elon Musk, but I want to bring it to the ARK Venture Fund. Of course, it's not an ETF. You invest in private companies, et cetera, in there. And you take a look at the portfolio, you have SpaceX in there, and you also have X, formerly known as Twitter. And in July, you had told the Wall Street Journal that you had written down your Twitter stake by 47%. Fill us in on the past couple of months. Have you written it down further, or how has that changed?
No, I think it's still there. We have to be very careful. This is an interval fund. It is a 40 Act fund, and we have to market every day. The good news is our clients can get in and have access to these amazing companies for just $500, and they get quarterly liquidity. So that's the good news. The markdowns are simply, if we see in the secondary market employee stock trading at a steep discount, we have to take that into account. If we see others in the more traditional asset management world, like Fidelity and others, marking their holdings down, we need to take that into consideration during our daily mark-to-market. So it's an abundance of caution. We have a 5-year investment time horizon. Do we think that's where X belongs in terms of valuations? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. A roughly $20-ish billion valuation for what we believe truly will become the everything app. Think WeChat Pay. Elon started his entrepreneurial career in the payments industry, and he's been thinking about this for a long time. He now has money transmitter licenses in more than half of all of the states, which we learned on Twitter Spaces, or on X Spaces, I should say, the other day when we had our interview with him. So that's exciting. He's going for it.
He's going for it. We'll see if that one lands. But let's talk a little bit more about the private markets, because obviously the private credit market has gotten a lot of attention right now. You're looking at the private markets through this interval fund that you have. When you think about the opportunities there on that 5-year horizon that you have, do you see more so in the public markets or in the private markets right now?
Now that we've had this very nice run this year, we think the answer to that question is in the private markets. They're close. They're close. What's fascinating to us is that the public markets have been leading the private markets for the past 3 years. As our funds were falling in 21, private valuations were going to all-time highs, along with the NASDAQ. They were taking their cues, I suppose, from the NASDAQ. But real innovation, if you looked at our portfolios, was starting to revalue to the downside, and even more so in 2022. We are still seeing major down rounds taking place in the private markets, and I'm always surprised at this sort of thing, because you would think that the private markets lead the public markets. That has not been the case in the last few years.
Hey, Kathy, I've got to be honest with you. I think whenever we think about Elon Musk, brilliant, but also erratic. And I'm curious how you think about Elon, the individuals, versus Elon, the companies he's creating, the things he's doing. Because I think if there is time, any other CEO of a major publicly held company would, I think it's safe to say, not be able to get away with a lot of what he has done. So help us, educate us, how you make sense of it, of someone you have followed, talked with for many years.
Well, first of all, very often we just look at what he does, not exactly what he's saying, which can often be a distraction, or it can be an advertisement for his cars or for X or for SpaceX and so forth. So, but we have a scoring system as we are evaluating companies and their founders and their management teams. And there are 6 metrics, and one of them is moat and barriers to entry. And I think Elon is a maestro of raising barriers to entry with innovation, that is so much faster than anyone else. Why? Because he's so first principles, physics driven in his analysis of how to approach a new idea, a big idea.
So tell me this then, Kathy. I mean, if you look at the cohort of the CEOs that you back, Brian Armstrong, does he hit that bar? Is he above Elon, or is he at the money? You've got Elon, you've got Brian, you've got Tony Wood at Roku. Does anybody come close to Elon, or is Brian Armstrong maybe even at the money with Elon or above?
Well, we don't actually look at the world that way, one relative to the other in terms of management teams. We do look from our scoring system at the scores, which include moat, management, people and culture, execution, valuation, that might surprise people, and product and service leadership, and thesis risk. Those are the 6 scores. And all 3 of them score very highly. Which one scores the highest? They're actually very close to one another, to be honest.
They're very close to one another. So, I mean, obviously, Coinbase is one of your key holdings. We've talked a little bit about that. The other feature that we want to talk about is AI. I'm curious to know, in OpenAI, the valuations have ranged between 80 billion to 100 billion. Will you take a position in OpenAI? Is that going to be part of your holdings as you explore the next development of AI in your holdings?
Well, in our private portfolios, we are already exposed to Anthropic, which has been a major beneficiary of the drama around OpenAI that we all witnessed a few months ago. But if you look at GPT-4, which is the latest large language model that OpenAI has published, it is way above others in terms of performance. So there you have it, the pros and the cons. So we can't tell you what we're going to do in that portfolio, but we are so impressed at how OpenAI has led the industry. We're also impressed, however, at the open source models, and we'd like to encourage more of that movement. We know that Meta Platforms has with Llama 2, and it's working on others, is moving very quickly and making great strides. So for much lower cost, open source is free, companies can get close, not right at GPT-4, but close. So we want to see the open source movement. In the venture fund, we also own.
Kathy, we've got to.
Sorry.
No. We never have enough time with you. Can I ask you a really quick question, 5 seconds?
Sure.
Any new ETFs coming our way from you guys next year?
Well,
real quickly.
As you may know, we bought a company in London.
Yeah.
They have some very interesting funds.